a headline and it said that the Supreme Court is upholding Trump's ban on transgender people in the military. And I have a question. Actually, I have a proposition, okay? If one person can come in the comments and tell me what is so scary about transgender people, I'll shave my head.
It's not about being scared.
But it has to be a valid reason, okay? And
Plenty of people can give you valid reasons.
I think you could ban bears from the military, okay? And I would say banning bears from the military would make a lot of sense. Let me tell you why. Bears are dangerous. Bears don't know if, the person on their side or the person on the other side is the person they're supposed to be eating, okay? So they could eat you, your fellow servicemen, by accident, not knowing, okay? A bear is dangerous, okay? That's a valid, dangerous thing. You can be scared of a bear because they might attack you and they might eat you. I need a valid reason with facts backing it up as to why people are so afraid of transgender people. I need it. And I'll shake my head. If there's a really, real valid, it has to be factual. It has to be, I am scared of a bear because a bear can eat me. I am scared of a transgender person because I don't know if they have a penis under their skirt. Like, what is it? What is it? And don't even try to come up here being like a lot of attacks from transgender people onto other people. Because the facts are that's actually just not true. The facts are white men are still the number one attackers of women. So anyway, a real fact of why people would be afraid of transgender people and why transgender people shouldn't serve in the military.
So there's a lot of reasons why transgender people can't or shouldn't be allowed to be in the military. I can give her one. I can give her many reasons. It usually has to do with readiness. The military bans a lot of conditions from the military. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you can't join. If you've had asthma before, you can't join the military. If you've had any kind of surgery, you can't join the military. If you have a history of depression, you can't join the military. Those are all valid reasons why you can't join the military. Now, according to the DSM-5, a transgender person is a person who is suffering from gender dysphoria. And I'm not a doctor, but that's what the DSM-5 says. And up until 5 minutes ago, we considered transgender people to be gender dysphoric, which is what they are. They believe that they were born in the wrong body. That is what gender dysphoria is, correct? So it stands to reason that gender dysphoria, being that transgender people have gender dysphoria, they have a mental illness, therefore banning them from service. It has nothing to do with being scared of transgender people. Nothing at all. It has to do with readiness. That's all it is. And this woman was never going to shave her head, to be honest. I have a follow-up video of her. And mind you, I'm speaking from a point of a person who served. If you've served, you know how awkward those fucking trainings got when it came to the transgender conversation at the barracks, in the unit, when we had to have the PowerPoints about inclusivity. Even if there was no transgender in your unit, it was a box that your unit had to check. And just to prove, I'm going to prove you guys that I actually served in the military. Here's my ID. Hopefully the ID... For anyone who knows the Texas State ID, if you've ever seen one, once you are out of the military and you are a certain percentage considered disabled by the VA, they might have changed the law. I think you can just get Army veteran on it now. You can get that designated on your license. As you can see here at the bottom there, mine says veteran, has a little U.S. flag, and it says Army right after it. So I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not making this up. See, this is the problem. We're supposed to listen to people like this who have never put on the uniform. Now, I could be making a wrong assumption, But my assumption is that this woman has never served a day in her life. She has never put on any sort of, and she never would. She never would. In fact, a lot of these people, a lot of these liberal women have disdain for the military. The only time they care for the military is when it comes to pushing their ideology. When it comes to DEI, when it comes to letting transgender people within the military. The military is supposed to be a lethal fighting machine. The military has never been an equal opportunity employer. It never had. By its nature, it cannot be, because you want the best people in the military who don't have body issues. And granted, I'm fucked up, and I was fucked up when I was in the army. But they generally don't let people who are already fucked up in. They might let you stay in if you get fucked up, but if you get fucked up enough, they med board you. They kick your ass out. I got a lot of friends who got med boarded. But again, this is coming from a person who would never, ever put on that uniform. She would never serve her country. In fact, I believe people like this, if we went to war, would actively side with the opposing army. These people hate America. But since it's about a cause that she cares about, all of a sudden she cares. I guarantee you this woman has never served. I just gave 3 reasons why we shouldn't allow transgender people in the military. The military is not an equal opportunity employer. There's a lot of reasons why you can't serve. And transgenderism, being that it's a mental health disorder, should be one. What a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of people who are quote unquote transgender will join the military just to get the free surgeries. And guess what also happens? They become non-deployable for a long time. You know why? Because after the surgeries, after all the therapy that they got to go through and all that stuff they got to do, they have to be in a recovery phase. And if the unit did have to deploy for whatever reason, they might not even let them go. So what do we have you in the military if it's not to serve at your full capacity, which is war making? Because that's what our military is for. They've had this thing now in the military in recent years where they've been trying to change it to a professional force, but it's never been that. It's always been a fighting force. It will always be a fighting force. And so the fighting force must be at its highest capability and its highest capacity when it comes to war making. And having people who have these mental health disorders within our ranks does not help our military, does not help our troops. In fact, like I said, a lot of the times it just makes the situation uncomfortable. And it's not about fear. Because like I said, we never had a single transgender person in any of the units that I was ever in. Yet we had to have that training every couple of months. And it was always awkward. If you've ever served, you can attest to it. But anyway, she had a follow-up video where she obviously didn't shave her head, even though she was given plenty of reasons why people that have gender dysphoria, that are transgender, shouldn't be able to join the military or stay within the service. And here's what she had to say.
I'm back with a full head of hair.
Of course you are.
Unfortunately, I did go through most of the comments, and it proved exactly what I thought, which is you guys are all just like transphobic, homophobic, all of the things, because the comments all read as this: the military is not an equal opportunity.
It's true.
They hate DEI over there, bitches.
It's not about DEI. It's fucking asthma about DEI? Is having had knee surgery when you were a fucking teen because you got into a car crash about DEI? It has nothing to do with DEI. It never has. And of course she came back with a full head of hair. You know why? Because she made that proposition she made in bad faith. She never planned to actually cut her hair. You know why? Because before she even asked the question, she automatically said that any answer, whether legitimate or not, was going to be wrong. Any answer that she got was automatically going to be the wrong answer. She never planned to shave her head. And so these are people that argue or make propositions in bad faith. And this is why you don't take people like this seriously. But let's continue to hear what she has to say.
And be in the military, and you cannot need any medication. Well, a couple of those things are false. Transgender doesn't mean you're mentally ill. That's not the same thing. So let's just throw that one out from the start.
Sure.
And then number two, you cannot be on any medication in the military. That's also simply not true.
That's true. That's not true. You can be definitely on. You can definitely be on medication and be in the military. A lot of people are on medication. There's nothing wrong with being on medication. The problem becomes when you have to be on this permanent medication and you have to deploy for whatever reason, and you can't deploy because they don't have a way to get you that medication in the fucking battlefield. That's the problem.
Get below, because I know you guys kind of have trouble with the Google and like looking stuff up and researching and reading, so I'll do my best to explain it here, but then I'll also link it below just in case a couple of you can read. I know it's a little struggle. Anyway, this was conducted in, I believe, 2017, and the first openly trans member of the military came out in 2015. So again, we've had 10 years of trans people serving in our military. In this article, they predict that there are at least 8,000 transgender people currently serving in the military, some on active duty, some on not. And again, they said at least because they think this is drastically underreported, because there are probably many people who do identify as trans but would not come out openly as trans while they're in the military, if that makes sense. However, I want to read a very important conclusion part of this article, then I'll get into the next part. The current study provides an initial socio-demographic profile of this understudied population that indicates that transgender service members report above average physical health and few risk behaviors. I did also see a video I was tagged in. Somebody stitched my video. He's apparently like a recruiter for the military. And his reason was you cannot have any medication or pre-existing condition to join the military. Again, that's false. There are people who are on medications who are in the military, but...
Right. They get on medication afterwards. He's not wrong. I just gave a few reasons why they would literally bar you. There's a lot of pre-existing conditions that will literally bar you from joining. So he is not incorrect. When you go to MELTS, they look at your entire medical history. They know everything about you from the moment you're fucking born. Now, back in the day when I joined the military, I mean, I never had any pre-existing conditions, but back in the day it was a lot easier because you could just lie to the doctor and tell them you've never had asthma, even though you know you've had asthma your whole life. And they wouldn't know that unless you said something. But now they have this new system, I believe, and I know this from one of my best friends. He's a recruiter. Well, he was a recruiter. He just he's no longer on recruiter duty. But I believe this system is called Genesis, and I could be wrong. I've been out since 2020. I don't know what new system they got. But that system is apparently so good that they have your medical records from when you were a baby. You can't lie. You can't lie. Like, I mean, you could say, well, no, I don't know about this. But it'll pop up if you've been to any doctor within the United States. It's kind of crazy and kind of scary, right? But it is what it is. What she's talking about is people being on medicine after the fact. There's another argument that's also interesting to tell, because a lot of these people that are gender dysphoric, once they get out of the military, they go to the VA and they claim that they have all these mental health issues so that they can get disability for their mental health issues, that be transgenderism. But if you're transgender and you're arguing that it's not a mental health issues, your transgenderism wasn't caused by the military. So why are you claiming that to the VA so that you can get a check for the rest of your life? Because that's what a lot of people do. They go in, they get the free surgery, they get out, and then they go to the VA and file a claim. And so that's abusing the system. Because if you are who you say you are, and we should accept you, and this is who you are, and we got to put you on medication and whatever, all this stuff, the military didn't cause your transgenderism. So why should the VA pay you for the rest of your life because you're transgender? Because this happens. I mean, it happens. So I'm just curious. But I do have another video. Somebody that stitched her. We're going to continue. We're going to finish this one. I do have another video of somebody that stitched her and gave her valid reasons. And again, she was never planning to cut her hair. The argument was in bad faith from jump. And so, but let's continue.
that than me, because you probably do. Okay, so let's just take out the medication part. Trans people have been serving in the military for the past 10 years. Whether you like it or not, they have been there. Even in the first Trump administration, he did not fully ban trans people from the military. He made it harder, but he did not fully ban them. This is new as of 2025. So again, there have been openly trans members serving in the US military for 10 fucking years. So don't tell me they can't join because of pre-existing conditions, because if that's true, then they would not have been serving for the past 10 years openly and out. I understand. You're going to use an example like asthma. I keep seeing like asthma being called up here. Well, I can't join because I have asthma. I can't join because I have diabetes. That's not the same fucking thing.
Literally, it is the same fucking thing. And I guess this dumbass doesn't understand what a pre-existing condition is, right? The transgender troops, if they've never been diagnosed with gender dysphoria or nothing like that, what they'll do is they'll join and then claim to be transgender after the fact. How the fuck did this even go over her head? Is she stupid? She's got to be stupid. Or she's arguing in bad faith. Because look how she's conflating pre-existing conditions with already being in and claiming you're transgender. They're not the same thing. They're not. If you're on certain medication, you can't join the military. Doesn't mean that you can't develop a condition that requires that medicine after the fact, which is what happens. But they're not going to kick you out for it unless your problem is severe. And they med board people all the time. But somehow transgenderism, gender dysphoria is we're supposed to just let that one slide. That's what we're supposed to do. She argues in bad faith, but I have a video, and we're not going to keep listening to this person because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. But somebody gave a more succinct response to her, and it's quick and easy. I've already given plenty of reasons why she's a fucking idiot, but hear this other person out.
I just read a headline and it said that the Supreme Court is upholding Trump's ban on transgender people in the military. And I have a question. Actually, I have a proposition, okay? If one person can come in the comments and tell me what is so scary about transgender people, I'll shave my head. But it has to be a valid reason, okay?
Nothing is scary about transgender people or the transgender community, but there are reasons why they are not qualified to be in the military. So I will give you the study straight from the NIH, the National Institute of Medicine, and I hope you're prepared to shave your head and be bald. So the abstract says here, we performed a cross-sectional analysis of prevalence of psychiatric diagnosis among transgender patients in clinical care using an all-payer electronic health record database. Of 10,270 transgender patients identified, 58% had at least one psychiatric diagnosis, compared with 13.6% in the controlled patient population. Transgender patients has a statistically significant increase in prevalence for all psychiatric diagnoses queried, with a major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder being the most common diagnosis.
By the way, let me pause it there just to let you know. Those are bannable conditions in the military. They can stop you from joining for those reasons alone, right? For depression, and they can kick you out for it. I know people that have gotten kicked out for depression, for suicidal ideation. And transgender people, let's just use the premise that transgenderism within itself is not an issue. What about every other issue that transgender people seem to manifest when they're transgender? That are bannable in the military, by the way, like I said. What about then? But no, she's not going to listen to that.
Respective diagnosis queried, with a major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder being the most common diagnosis, 31% and 12% respectively. Utilizing an all-payer database, although not without limitations, enables assessment of mental health and substance use diagnosis in this otherwise small population. So there you go. The transgender community mentally is not healthy. And when you are not mentally healthy, you are not qualified to be in the United States military. They do not meet the standard or the qualifications. So I expect to see a video popping up anytime now from your profile where you were shaved bald.
She's not going to do that. She just gave you the stats. I gave you other reasons. She gave actual numbers. But these people are sick. Again, this is coming from people who would never actually put on the uniform. This is coming from people who openly hate the military. These people hate the military. They're the people that complain about the military budget and saying we shouldn't have a military at all, that our military sucks, that the United States sucks. These are the people who hate their country. But when it comes to pushing their ideas, oh yeah, then when we're supposed to accept everything in every facet of every, in every aspect of life, in every section or sector of employment. I'm not going to say too much. I've already said what I wanted to say. I wanted to just play these quick videos. And again, this is coming from a veteran, somebody who's actually served with people. I'm not just talking out of my ass and reading studies that, of course, are cherry-picked to say whatever the fuck you want. Look how she was able to find another study that contradicted your data. But anyways, I'm not going to say too much. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that this woman is correct in what she's saying? Do you think that we should allow transgender troops to serve in the military, or should they be banned? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.